That may be. I think Tim Ferriss does the mushroom coffee. This is kind of like a he calls it superfood. It's got all sorts of fun stuff in it. It's great.
Okay. Yeah, I listen to a lot of Pod Save America, and they push the mushroom coffee quite a bit on the podcast and the commercials or whatever. That's a weird one to me. I can't.
Nothing
It's just not lining up.
yeah, no matter what I do, I need a nap every day. So no amount of coffee will fix that, I feel like.
All right. All right. Well, I guess you know what. Instead of us discussing mushroom coffees and naps and whatnot, why don't we move over to actually why we're actually talking? Why don't you do me a favor? Kind of introduce yourself and tell my listeners what you're running money, raising money for over on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, so my name is Conor Lewis. Online, you can find me Conor B. Lewis, Conor with one N, Conor. And I am running a campaign called Fort, the Magnetic Pillow Fort. It is live on Kickstarter now until February 25th, 2021. And we are currently at 2.8, just under 2.9 million. So quite a campaign.
Yeah.
It is basically a set of 12 like foam blocks covered in this like durable fabric with magnetic connectors in all the corners, and it's built specifically for kids. We basically took the idea of like those foam blocks that kids get at daycare centers, and we just made them bigger and made it more like furniture, and really kind of created our own thing here to help kids build forts and all sorts of cool modular stuff.
Well, one of the things I love about it, because again, I've got some young children here, is I love like the content of the couch and living room being destroyed, which if I took this camera literally around this wall, I know there's pillows all over the place. The couch cushions are everywhere, and it's just chaos. And I'm always picking that up. So I love the fact that like you're saying, "Hey, we're gonna fix this solution." I love like the video and like you hear this, all that sort of stuff. So I'm assuming is that a real life scenario for you? Is that where the idea comes from? Like, hey, I don't want to pick up couch cushions anymore.
Oh, I mean, totally. It's. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. So the 6-month-old is not moving anywhere, which is honestly nice at this point. But the 2.5-year-old, absolutely. I mean, I don't even think I realized how universal the couch ripping off cushions thing was. I mean, it's just so used to, especially. I mean, throw pillows are always the first to go, and then the blankets, and so yeah. When we wrote that video, it was like I have to make this kind of like a cheeky opening about how I'm drinking a cup of coffee because my kids are playing with their fort instead of my couch cushion.
Yeah, it really is awesome. So, I mean, I guess, so what starts the process in this? I mean, even though you might have the idea, but like, what do you start to do? Is this something that you have a background in, or I guess, what's the starting point for it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I've gotten to, as I've kind of told my story more and more, I've kind of gotten to reflect back and kind of see how it all connected. So basically, I lost my job in April 2020. I was doing corporate marketing stuff and working for this basically high net worth guy who owned a bunch of properties and real estate and companies. And so I would help him work with all the companies that he owned and do video projects and marketing and fun stuff like that. And, coronavirus hit. I was one of the younger guys on the team. It was really easy to cut that. It was a totally fine parting. I was looking for other stuff anyways, but found myself out of a job, with a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old. Not exactly ideal, and basically the story of a lot of parents out there. And so, sitting at home, basically kind of being a stay-at-home dad while my wife worked, watching a 2-year-old, you learn a lot and your brain starts running. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wasn't exactly sure I could make the jump. And so I saw the fort building process, right? Something you do at home. And basically I thought there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a better way to keep standing up. In fact, the product that I built is actually the size is almost literally based off of the couch cushions on my couch. And so basically, using my kind of creative background in marketing, I had studied art in college, so I was able to draw and things like that. So I learned how to basically find products online and start sourcing, and hired a product designer. And about July of 2020, invested in this idea called Fort and started the company.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as you're kind of putting this together, what are you looking for to sort of prove viability? Like, it's not just an idea like, oh, this actually has some legs. Are you looking for something at this point? Or are you still more in the like, hey, let me actually learn how to maybe sew one first, or, source something or work with a product designer? Like, where are you at that point in your mind?
Yeah, so I took the approach of which you've definitely probably heard in business, usually in tech. I was really obviously kind of grew up during the Facebook and Twitter, Instagram boom. Was
Mm,
in high school and college when all those started. Making billions, millions, and
right.
billions of dollars. And so that minimum viable product idea, the idea that you can make something really quickly, get it out into the world, and then see what the market says. And
Right.
so I knew with my skills and creativity, I could hire a designer for, I don't know, $1,000, $500 or something, and you send him sketches and make something up, mock it up in 3D and CAD, and put it out on Facebook ads and kind of see what happened. And
Mm,
so that's basically what I did is I kind of took that approach. And also I was really lucky because I had kind of identified beforehand that there was a market for this kind of kids play furniture that I was
mm,
entering into. And so
right.
that was kind of the market segment that was dominated by this really cool D2C company called Nugget Comfort. And
Mm,
Nugget is based in North Carolina, mostly made in America. It's a really cool kids play couch, super popular online. And I had discovered all these Facebook groups that mostly mothers were in and just rabid for this product. And
mm,
coronavirus only heightened that. The
sure.
Nugget is a really modular couch that kind of basically kids took over and turned into like a plaything. And I thought, well, what if I don't start with the couch idea? What if I start with like a block idea and work from that direction? So I
Sure.
kind of created my own new version and thought that there was a real chance that this crowd could latch onto my product. So taking that MVP, minimum viable product philosophy, and moving it over to my own product idea and learning how to find a similar product online and source it from that factory and have them build me a sample. In about 3 or 4 months, I think even 3 months, I had a full brand developed and
Mm,
a product sample at my door.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And then at that point, are you? So it sounds like even in that portion too, and I think this is important for other project creators. You are putting together a little bit of a buyer persona. I mean, as you're thinking about this, it's would I buy this? Is it kids? It's not just parents, but it's not parents with kids who are like maybe 10 years old, 12 years old. There's probably a certain number in there that you're thinking like it's this type of parent. So how much is that impacting that sort of 3 month period of like, and do these Facebook groups help too? Because you're probably looking at them going, well, these are the people, right? Just make the product for these
Yeah.
people, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, it was, the key to our early growth was those Facebook groups. And I can't
Yeah.
stress this enough. You do have to go look and find your customer, find
Yeah.
someone, learn who they are, learn what they want. I went into those groups very quietly and just watched basically.
Hmm.
And that was super valuable to see what they were talking about, see what interests them. And I did not sell my product in those groups. I
Right.
learned that every time I messaged somebody about it, they almost could not care less.
Mm.
It's this weird psychological thing. They don't want to be promoted to in that way.
Right.
A
Right.
Facebook ad actually is a completely different thing. There's a wide acceptance of that. But those Facebook groups was basically where the whole product was born and discovered and actually ended up being all of our success. So I
Mm.
took what I learned from those Facebook groups, built it into my product, and then once I actually had the product and some photos, after that about 3 months, kind of getting everything sorted and the sample to my front door. Once I had a photo, and I was able to run some small Facebook ads targeted towards that audience on Facebook
Mm.
with ads.
Yeah.
And basically, almost overnight, within the span of a few days, I mean, almost, actually, there was one night we got 1,500 leads on our for our email list, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we reached that right audience. That audience found it, emailed me personally. It's like, hey, what is this? We love this. This is similar to some other stuff we have, and we're really
Right.
into it. And they took that and they actually posted it, ironically, in the same groups that I was inserting myself into.
That's cool.
And which is what I wanted in the first place, right?
Right.
That's what I dreamed of. And so all of that growth came from listening to the customer.
Yeah. That's very cool. And now once you're getting that sample to you, what are you looking for in terms of like, all right, this is where I can go this way with it. I can do this with it. Okay. Or I need to adjust this. What are you kind of just looking for in that first, I'm assuming prototype or first sample that comes in to say, I'm going to move the product this way or that way or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. The first thing like was the fabric what I wanted because for moms especially, cleaning up and kids and so I didn't mention it, but it's basically targeted at kids that are kind of between like 3 and 7, 8. A little bit
Yeah.
on the younger end, but I wanted to make sure that kids young as 3, in fact, my 2.5-year-old can pick up the biggest blocks. I also wanted to make sure the fabric was like super durable. Dogs and
Right.
cats could jump on it. You could spray ketchup on it, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's like I'm selling a magnetic like block, right?
Hmm.
So the magnets have to work. They
Right.
have to work. Everyone online is like, how do the magnets work? I mean, magnets are basically magic to people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think we learn enough about science and
Right.
positive and negative
Yeah.
charges and all that. But like the magnets have to work. And
Right.
so the first thing I noticed was I was like, these are just a little bit underpowered. And
Mm.
and that was our biggest initial challenge is how do I get these magnets to work? And then how do I deal with the polarity of the magnets, right? Because
Sure.
on most normal magnets, north is on one side and south is on another. On
Hmm.
some magnets, like in a magnetile, if you're familiar with kids' products,
Hmm.
the magnets are actually split down the middle. And I'm doing this on an
Hmm.
audio platform. I'm splitting my hand down the
Yeah.
middle, and north and south are on the same side, split down the
Right.
middle, like a
Right.
like a circle cut in half. And so we had to explore all of those options to figure out how to make that work.
Sure. Sure. And I guess in your mind, are you also putting together, um, you know, different shapes and sizes to make a, whatever a fort might look like, right? Are you like, okay, if the magnets are here, you can stack them this way and make a little house or something like, are
Yeah.
you kind of working through? I guess I'm imagining my kids were in preschool not that long ago of like what was just sitting around and it was just like a gazillion different shapes, but then I would imagine a bunch of different shapes might make it challenging on molds, prototypes, shipping, like, so now are you going, all right, this is like this is a perfect design that allows you to build 10 different things or whatever it might be.
Yeah, we had to find the right combo. I did change the pieces more than once to find the right combo of like, these are the right amount of pieces and these create the most amount of possibilities while still being able to like make this thing without
Right.
it being monstrous. At one point I had in a full extra like, huge piece and we just realized like I'm so far over shipping sizes that I just can't do that.
Right.
So yeah, that about right at that point when we were like exploring the options with what we would like finally call a single set was like
Hmm.
how are we actually going to logistically deal with this product, because once
Right.
you kind of have that design, the next step is obviously as someone who now is obviously on crowdfunding is like, how can I deliver this to the customer?
Right.
And so that becomes the most important thing, especially with a product that is like monstrously huge compared to
Hmm.
most products.
Yeah. Yeah. So we mentioned crowdfunding. Where does the idea though of Kickstarter start to kind of play into prototyping, samples, audience research? Where do you start to think I'm going to go to crowdfunding for this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that was a huge struggle. Crowdfunding was actually not my first choice, and in fact, Kickstarter was not my first crowdfunding platform choice.
Mm.
So I really wanted to launch just on Shopify. I wanted to launch to like a 5,000 person email list. I wanted to sell 200 units,
Right.
which I did the math, and basically that was like just enough to fill like half of a container from China, or just maybe it was about one container. I can't remember, but that meant that I was like, okay, I can get that product out into the world. That's nice and safe. Like we'll see what happens. As we started to explode online and started to funnel these leads we were getting by the thousands into a private Facebook group, I started to get all this feedback, really valuable information and
Mm.
data. And I realized that there was probably a pretty good chance that I could make a good splash on a crowdfunding platform. Um,
Yeah.
I had been encouraged by friends to kind of explore that. And the thing that appealed to me was obviously you're going to get a little more press because people are automatically looking for new products on crowdfunding. I mean, that's
Yep.
that's ultimately the benefit to using something like Kickstarter, even over, the other big platform, Indiegogo, is Kickstarter is
Hmm.
almost 3 times as big.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
I initially started with Indiegogo. In retrospect, I probably would have rather gone with that for a lot of technical reasons we can get into if you want. But Kickstarter was the choice. I mean, it's the classic platform. We all associate it with crowdfunding. And I thought that I could probably educate the customer enough to get them to buy into a Kickstarter campaign. And I knew that it would give me some of the exposure I needed to basically grease the wheels,
Sure.
Not necessarily financially, but people reaching out to me, PR, connecting with other entrepreneurs like this, all these things. And that ultimately did happen.
So I think that's interesting. I would like to dive in a little bit between your mindset between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. One of the reasons is that sometimes when I see a product or when we've worked on products that have potentially an audience that's a little bit more female, we tend to look at Indiegogo just because of the data on Kickstarter. It's 40-year-old white guys, basically 30-year-old white guys, right? That's who's on Kickstarter. So was that something that you were kind of thinking about as well, as just looking and going, who is my audience? Where are they? Do they actually purchase on Kickstarter? Now, obviously you've had a ton of success, so that, what you made a good choice, but like, what were you thinking about at that point between the two platforms?
Yeah, so that was huge. I think basically what I realized pretty early on is that my customer almost has zero idea what crowdfunding was, and if they had heard of crowdfunding, they had at least heard of Kickstarter.
Right.
So the unique thing about my raise, which I don't think I'm the first person in history to do this, but I think I'm convinced that almost 80% of my customers that I brought on my first day when I raised 2.2 million in like 12 hours had never had a Kickstarter account.
Wow.
And that was because of the education that we did with this customer. And they say to make the purchasing process as easy as possible when you're dealing with specifically a lot of moms with not a lot of time on their hands and a lot of kids and are stressed, getting them to understand a crowdfunding platform and all of its complexities and type into bonus support. And I mean, that is a nightmare. But we pulled it off into the millions of dollars, which is unbelievable. But, Kickstarter's 40-year-old. I mean, you said it right. Games. It doesn't even do tech hardly anymore. Honestly.
Right. Yeah. I know.
And so and I had consistently a better experience with Indiegogo support. They were very responsive. They seem much more creator focused. I have had a good person to reach out to at Kickstarter at this point, and I appreciate that. But I really think that even though it's a smaller platform, it is Indiegogo tends to be a little bit more creator focused. From the technical side, you can use a Facebook pixel, which is invaluable. Your agency work, it's invaluable as far as targeting ads. It also has a secret perk feature, which would have basically completely changed our lives because we offered a special pricing to our earliest email subscribers. That would have made some logistical complexities very easy. And, there's the ability to, the secret perk, you can hide that. You can create a new one later on. So there's all sorts of upselling and side selling and all these things that you can do, which you cannot do on Kickstarter. They've limited the platform. I've also found that the basic reporting that Kickstarter allows you to have is very, very dodgy at best. It's not recording all of the things. And it seems a little dated for the most part. I think that the tech is actually, I think the code is pretty old. So sorry, Kickstarter.
Well, it's funny you say this because you're preaching to the choir here. These are the things that we just bash our heads in the table and then wonder what is going on as that company. Why are they not making these improvements? Why are they not doing some of these things, the bare minimums of Facebook pixel? Like if you think you're launching a campaign without any Facebook ad, like you're just in what do you, off topic for a moment.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think that is? Because we can't comprehend it on our end. And I know Perry Chen, we met Perry Chen back in 2009 and why are we not pushing it forward just a little bit?
I think there's a few things from my perspective. I don't think Kickstarter. There seems to be almost a culture of not wanting the big campaigns for some reason, which is unusual because those are the ones that make the most money, right? Kickstarter is going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars from me, and I made that money for them, right? I think there must be some sort of missional or someone who's really against that kind of thing. And I do think that what they do well is they really support small creators, like,
Yeah.
very small campaigns, very social justice focused. And I think those
Right.
things are great. In fact, I've even talked to a fellow creator who is in a more cultural, like, kind of like market. And I think
Hmm.
Kickstarter is a great fit for that, right? I think
Yeah.
they'll get a ton of support, even if they're only trying to raise like $6,000.
Right.
So I think maybe there's something of that. Other than that, I'm just as
Yeah.
baffled as you are, because
Yeah.
the support for, I do think the commercialization of Kickstarter is kind of good and bad, right?
Hmm.
You've got amazing companies which are like Peak Designs, which I think
Yeah.
is something I can only aspire to be, something that's really ethically focused, really environmentally focused. Not only that, but like they just create amazing products, right? There's
Yeah.
something that I
Yep.
want to do.
Yep.
And those companies should launch on Kickstarter. I think they
Right.
do it partially because it's in their DNA. But yeah, I think it's almost like they're pushing back against the large creators. And I'm not, honestly, not a large creator. I'm literally a guy in St. Louis, Missouri, in my attic,
Right.
with two
Right.
kids and a wife, and
Yeah.
so it is baffling at times.
Yeah. I hear you. It's uh, I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's the thing that I tell some people. I'm like, I think I had like the 20th Kickstarter ever. It's like
Oh
it's the
wow,
same process I did then as I would do today. Like nothing is
wow,
like literally the back end is the same. Where I'm uploading it, how I'm putting a video in, I'm like nothing really has changed. Yeah, there's a few things here and there, but like it's the same process, and it's
that's
crazy
crazy.
to me that it's
Yeah,
been a decade, of the
yeah,
same, basically the same stuff.
yeah,
So whatever. Well, let's move back to you. So,
great.
so obviously, pre-launch is going really, really well. You're pushed into, hey, you should do crowdfunding. You've chosen the platform that you're going to go on. Now, what are you looking for in terms of making sure this education process you're talking about, plus the content on the page? What are you aspiring to get to say, all right, when people get here, they're going to get it instantly? Like what are you trying to get to content wise?
Yeah, so we used a great service called Kickoff Labs to generate
Hmm.
landing pages, and they have a viral growth thing. They create little links for you, and each customer gets a link to share and potential to win free product. And so we kind of had this sharing campaign that was really powerful, and so that helped generate that email list. And then we tried to funnel that email list into a private Facebook group where people could ask questions about the product, where they could explore, talk to me, the creator, right? And that group, is almost at 14,000 people now. So our email list at launch time was around 80,000. And so basically what we did was, we used online applications like Loom, which is a
Hmm.
screen recorder and it has a nice little bubble where the person could talk. And so I would literally back Kickstarter campaigns. You can find these online. I got a great little coffee maker. um, which actually was delivered very quickly, which gave me like, well, I
Cool.
was like, that's the best karma, best sign I've ever
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
seen
yeah.
for my own product. And so I would literally create screenshots. I would do really comprehensive emails where, and more than once, this is how you add an add-on. This is how
Right.
you back the whole campaign from start to finish on mobile and desktop.
Hmm.
I mean, there's no real template for what I did. I literally would screenshot each thing. I would draw little arrows to the buttons to press. It was lo-fi, but it ended up working. And
Yeah.
not only that, but we just strove the whole time to have like amazing customer service, to be really, really responsive to the customer,
Yeah.
to really hear them and be empathetic. And I ended up hiring my best friend, and he had worked at Apple for years. And so, they have legendary customer service
Hmm.
training there. And so he basically brought in the processes he learned. They say like affirm. So there's 3 A's that they say,
Yep.
and it's a really great process. And so basically taught me that, and he basically took over kind of this process of hearing the customer and guiding them through,
Right.
almost emotionally backing a
Yeah.
Kickstarter, more
Yep.
so than just like the technical part.
Yeah. So something you're hinting on right here, and this is something we stress to all of our clients, and it's probably one of our biggest friction points is you were accessible through this pre-launch, this whole process. you were the one guiding these people so that people felt safe. Like, oh, my money's going to this guy. He's the reason he made
Yes.
this is it's a product that his kids would use, right? So
Yes.
a lot of times we'll get clients who are like, well, I hired you and I don't want to be on Facebook and I don't want to be in this Facebook group. I don't want to talk to these people. And you're like, it's not going to work, man.
It's not gonna
Like,
work.
I'm the marketing guy. Nobody wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm the salesy, sleazy
Yeah.
guy. You got to talk to the person who created it. So it sounds like, and was this something that you were conscious of, or is this just your personality? Like, hey, I'm comfortable doing this. Because this is what we also find is like, if you're not that person, like you can't be the front man of the band, you got to find a way to do it, or you got to find somebody that's going to be it. So like, is that something you were consciously thinking about, or I just stepped into the role and just did it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a background in a lot of film production. And so I had spent years interviewing people on camera. And it made a lot of sense for me to be in front of the customer. I was never like a trained actor, but doing commercial work, for large companies. So constantly interviewing executives or people at companies to help their marketing. And so I just knew that you have to connect on that human level, like you said.
Yeah.
And it is baffling to me that creators don't put themselves in front of their campaign. Even if they're bad, there's still the mind behind that, or find someone adjacent that can help.
Yeah.
And so I also should say, like, that background in marketing taught me strategically, like, I knew that giving the persona of Conor, the dad and who lost his job during coronavirus and all of those things, which is all true, helped the customer understand me, helped the customer know what they were supporting. And we had a lot of friction, even with the moms, even when I was making videos every day, right, to post in this Facebook group, people would still be like, this is going to be a scam, right? You're going to steal my money. You're going to coolest cooler me. They didn't even know what coolest cooler was, right? But, basically you're going to coolest cooler me. You're going to steal my, which, like, that guy didn't steal any money. He went broke. He was a bad businessman. Let's be clear.
He
did not get rich.
Sourcing all those parts should have been step one in the research process.
Yeah, he was just a bad businessman. He didn't steal. I mean, there are people out there who steal people's money. Don't get me wrong, but I had to do a lot of work to be like, this is not a scam. Kickstarter is a valid platform. Yes, if we fully fund, you're going to get your product. I've done all the research. I've built the factory infrastructure. I've researched shipping. This is why. And it's so interesting. You're dealing with the customer psychology constantly. But that was really powerful thing. And I'm so glad we did that. And I'm so glad that I've stayed out in front of it the whole time while still building the brand and building Conor as the founder.
Sure. That makes sense. So, with 12 days to go in the campaign, and you guys literally just crushing it, with the almost 2.9 million, a ton of backers. What has been the thing that has stood out the most though in the campaign behind the scenes where you're like, I just did not expect, this country to actually be a big supporter? Or has there been anything that's just been like, just didn't expect that at all?
Most of the things that have happened have been the challenges that I didn't expect. So I, on the good side, I don't think I had any idea how many connections I would build because of Kickstarter. And I think part of that is being one of the biggest, raises currently live, right? That helps. If you Google who's the highest, right? It's basically mine. But we've made more factory connections, more quote unquote, like, business political connections than I would have dreamed. In fact, I think ultimately that's going to be what I took out as the value. I'm not walking away rich from this Kickstarter because we did heavy discounts, right? It's kind of part of the game. And so, but I'm going to be rich in network, right? Which I don't think I realized how rich that would be. And that has been the biggest benefit to me, is that I've made things that will change my product and career completely. On the challenging side that I didn't expect, I don't think I expected how big we would be at the beginning because of our customer, and how I was counting on the 3/4 of the campaign to have a bigger impact on our bottom line.
Sure.
I really thought that Kickstarter would bring in more organic than it has. We're only at about 14% pledged via Kickstarter. I thought that would be closer to 30. That was
Yeah.
really factored heavily into my plan to be really profitable. We're still
Yep.
profitable, but just barely. And that has been really challenging. And the other part was, I don't think I expected how hard it would be to market during a Kickstarter. I see why
Yeah.
people use agencies, and we don't quite have the bottom line, like I was saying, to really go with full, agency support with that huge
Right.
percentage being taken and everything. And so it's been really challenging to build the campaign, and we have been building slowly. We're doing
Yeah.
$20,000 to $40,000 a day, which if I was doing
Right.
that for 365 days, I'd be running a $10 million company.
Right. Yeah.
So there's good and bad there. And I'm still selling product. It's not like I've failed. So those are kind of the reflections that I've had.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's gotta be interesting. And what has anything changed when you have a campaign that goes to this size, right? So a lot of times when I'm coaching clients and we're like, listen, we do 250 and you have 600 backers, that still is like, we got to get 600 products out the door, right? So how, and I'm assuming, maybe I'm wrong, that you've had to make adjustments in the middle of this campaign when it took off, right? To say like, holy shit, I got to deliver 9,000 units, right? Like I was gonna, well, you mentioned 200 was like a goal in your mind at some point, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
200 units out the door would be amazing. So what has had to change in the middle of this that you're reacting to now because of the volume, just
Yeah.
volume alone?
Yeah, I when our email list started to grow, I knew that I would have to shift my expectations. I ultimately did not want to do $1 million plus raise. That was not my goal. I knew that there was a lot of stress and a lot of shipping fear related to
Yeah.
that, and I get that historically. I'm a fan of Kickstarter. I have been since 2000. I don't know. I think maybe 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm a techie nerd back in college, right? And it
Yep.
popped up on my radar. And so I knew that. And so, what I did was I kind of readjusted everything that I started working way harder on how is this production process going to go and all those things. And so, as far as pivoting during Kickstarter, we've extended some of the shipping times on later backers. Totally easy
Right.
thing to do, right? Very,
Yep.
very normal. And we've really, really leveraged that network that we built. Within a week, I was connecting with people who literally, are greasing the wheels of our production process that I wouldn't have been able to done. I'm learning things, that making sure. I was obsessed with shipping from the beginning. I charged $50 per product, knowing that was a lot, knowing that there would be customer pushback, but knowing that like I have to make sure that for the most part, we're going to lose money on shipping still, but I have to make sure that I cover that as much as possible, because I know I'd rather have that customer mad that they paid $50 shipping, but still get their product. So that has been my obsession. And so it's been super challenging to adjust to this almost $3 million raise. And what we're doing now is just getting ready to do the hard work of making that product as fast as possible. And luckily we had basically a finished prototype. Before we launched, we had a factory that was lined up to make that. And all we've done now is we've actually switched a few factories because there are factories that we found that were better fits ultimately, which ended up being really great. Cheaper. We've switched some stuff to made in America. We're hopefully going to be completely made in America by the end of the year. And that's been a really, really powerful thing. And all I have to do is just make sure everything keeps moving forward.
Yeah. What now? And this campaign, correct me if I'm wrong, it's US only, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was there at all any interest in like, hey, let's try to get United Kingdom in here in Canada? And, was there any flirting with that at all? And then I'm assuming you looked at some shipping numbers and were like,
that's basically it. We had a ton of interest in Canada. We still do. UK and Australia were the other three. And it was just shipping numbers. I couldn't figure out how to import into those countries, and I knew that I couldn't ship it from America, from our third-party logistics company. I mean, we're talking hundreds or thousands of dollars to ship. And so that Canada, I want to go to next. It's the closest neighbor. I would like to ship domestically inside of Canada. I would like to import straight into Canada. But we're starting to do production in the US now. So there's a chance that we could be shipping from the US, but it will be cheaper because we're actually producing in the US now. So yeah, that is, I mean, that I had been told many times, go international. It's going to be huge, blah, blah, blah. I'm getting emails every day from out of the country. And I'm really risk averse when it comes to that. Yeah. I knew what I wanted to focus on. I'm going to focus on making a great product for America and start there.
Yeah. And you could literally, by having some random country, in Singapore or whatever, just some random island purchase. And all of a sudden you're spending all your time just trying to get it there. That's it. Just trying to get it there.
And probably losing money on it, honestly.
And losing money on it. Yeah. So no, I've killed 2 or 3 companies early in my days with just shipping alone, because we didn't do the homework right, but long time ago. So I guess just for you guys in general, campaign ends, money all drops. You start, getting these products to people, but what does this next year look like? Do you start making version 2.0s? Do you make add-ons? What just starts happening in your world? Or do you just expand and say, we're going to actually make these to other countries, just that, what does it kind of look like in your mind?
Yeah. So the first steps for us are, obviously, once that money drops, we're going to kind of make our final production samples. And we've made a few adjustments along the way, mostly to make shipping and importing and all these things easier. And we're hoping there may even be a chance that the whole product is made in the USA. If we can get the samples made quickly enough in the US. We've got about 4 or 5 months to get it shipped to the customer for our first batch, which, is a pretty decent lead time for something this simple. It's not a tech product. There's only 3 parts to it: foam, fabric, magnets, thread.
There's no Bluetooth? The kids can't sync Bluetooth to their Leapfrog? What?
Oh yeah, no kidding. I know. I know. So, that makes it easier, but international supply chains are horrible. Prices on raw materials are crazy because of COVID. And so there's all those challenges, but the first thing to do is get those production samples made, see if our Chinese factory or American factory can do it first and faster, basically. What we're planning on doing is kind of spending March, about when our money drops, March, April, May, getting all that, getting all the fabric, getting everything lined up, foam cut, and make sure by May we're sewing and getting the product made completely. And around May, I think we're going to launch on Shopify a pre-order, less like crowdfunding, more like, hey, we've gotten it all figured out, all the supply chain pipelines. We're going to ship this product in September. And so doing a pre-order in May, opening that up, maybe even just keeping it open and starting to build up inventory while we basically produce product for the rest of the year. We are fortunate enough that we're doing enough volume that we can take over a portion of a factory, and that factory can start creating that product just consistently for us, which is really the key. When you're a smaller company, that's a lot harder. They're going to shut down for a week just to make your product. But we're bringing in a lot of money, potentially millions, to these factories. So they're going to be, and it's going to be in their best interest to be making a few hundred of these a day, right?
Sure.
And so our goal is that by, hopefully the holiday rush, late October, we would be caught up on inventory and up and running for holidays. But the goal is to kind of drop new colors and things like that consistently to keep the hype up. But we're fully focused on moving to Shopify after Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's cool. And then how about just for you and your just personal life? Your life, I'm assuming, has adjusted and are pivoting as well in this time. Are you now a major kid toy designer moving forward? It's that's what your life is now, or or is this hey, I did this cool project and that's it? What do you guys just thinking about? Right?
Yeah, that's a fun question because, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I loved the online sales and things, and I love the strategy. As I've explored this and kind of gotten to dream, and made some money, it basically, I'm just excited about having a company that has potential to be successful. I think we can do $10 million in revenue this year without much work. I think I could build a $50 million top line revenue Company. I really do. I think that's well within the bounds of what this company can do. What I'd ultimately love to do is build this up, probably exit it at some point, and get to help other people do this. Right. I don't want to go into agency work necessarily, but something like investing and or buying companies. There's a lot of companies out there that kind of hold e-com and D2C companies and kind of facilitate over them and watch them grow. And that's kind of something that I'm really interested in. Even if this kind of just becomes a consistent company, it will hopefully give me the money to be able to invest in other companies and kind of help build them and build a portfolio of assets. And I'm really excited about that because I don't think I want to make forts forever. But I do see the value in doing this, and it has been really fun to hustle and make it happen. And so that is kind of what I'm looking forward to.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, let's flip over. Let's do a quick lightning round.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about forts or Kickstarters.
Okay, great.
So
I've got all sorts of stuff to say. So
all right, cool.
Yeah,
it's all good. Well, so what are you watching in the streaming? New Hulu,
all
Netflix?
Right,
what are you watching right now?
Yeah, let me pull up my latest. So I'm a big anime fan. Just recently, I've been watching. I just finished Demon Slayer for the second time. If you haven't seen that and you like anime, it's the best.
Good.
I'm watching Seven Deadly Sins, which is a kind of an older anime from a few years ago. And I'm always on Crunchyroll catching up on the latest stuff. So I spend most of my time being a nerd on anime, and I know I'm a 32-year-old man, and I'm totally okay with that. So, like my favorite show is Naruto. I've got one of the Japanese comics on my desk.
Wow.
And so that's basically what I'm watching at all times.
Okay. All right. How about is there a movie though that you've watched recently that maybe isn't like a movie?
No. I haven't watched anything. I've also got young kids, so I'm either like watching anime while I'm exercising or I'm working. So.
Okay.
Or
all right.
with my family. Yeah.
How about well, probably the same answer here maybe. Or is there a book you're reading right now?
I do read a lot actually.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm reading Neuromancer by William Gibson, like 80s sci-fi. And I'm also working through like a few business books. I just recently read 0 to 1, Peter Thiel's book, and
that one.
I'm really enjoying these books by Greg Crabtree. I'm trying to learn about finance and accounting and business, and they're called the first one's called Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits, which is it's kind of a dumb name, but it's actually pretty good, solid finance advice. And then Simple Numbers 2.0. And they're both just about, if you're a small business, it's really great, just kind of basic primer that I've really enjoyed. So I've actually read quite a few business books this year, just trying to keep up on things.
Yeah, that's cool. How about podcasts? Are you a podcast listener?
Oh yeah, constant. So I mean, yeah, if it's not anime or reading, it's a podcast. So I love. I've been really digging a bunch of ecom podcasts. I love Kurt Elster's podcast, Unofficial Shopify, E-commerce Influence, E-commerce Fuel. As you can see, I'm into e-commerce stuff. The podcast from the guys at The Hustle, My First Million, is really fun. I just discovered that, and I've been loving it. And E-commerce Playbook is another one. And then, of course, like the big dogs, Tim Ferriss. Love
do you
that
get you get the Hustle newsletter?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, and I read the Hustle and Morning Brew almost every morning. And I love both of those. So
yeah, it's totally cool. Yeah, I think I was listening. What was I listening to the other day that just described of like the business model of like the Hustle is a great business model because you're in complete control. You're not dependent on a Facebook changing something or changing an algorithm. Like you make this content and you send it directly to the people, and 98% of them get it, 99%, whatever it is. But like, that is a good business model. There's no middleman in that,
Dude,
so
I'm telling you, that's why I'm so like bullish on like email list and like SMS. I'm like, own those channels. I'm obsessed about that. So absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. We've been, I do a lot in the equity crowdfunding. So it's driving investors into platforms like WeFund or Start Engine. That's what we do mostly instead of Kickstarters anymore. But we've noticed over there that just Facebook ads into a page just doesn't do anything anymore. So it's still about now you got to get email addresses. You got to drive them into Discord channels. You got to get in Reddit subreddits, right?
Oh,
Reddit
interesting.
subreddits in there, and
Yeah.
really get conversations going, you know, and own that, you know, get that email address, tons of emails just warming people up. Because if you're just running ads into it, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna
No,
work. So
you're
all
not
right, yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. So my last one is how about like, I mean, we kind of mentioned a little bit, but like, are there any other like blogs or channels you go to though, just to stay on top of stuff, or Medium articles or anything that you go to consistently?
Yeah, that is a great question. I get most of my, honestly, I am all over Twitter these days.
Mm,
I think that if you are an entrepreneur, if you want to learn how to build an e-commerce or D2C business, which I don't really think of myself as like a crowdfunding guy. I don't think long-term crowdfunding is going to be my final like
yeah.
thing. I think what I really want to do is build that e-commerce or direct to consumer business. Honestly, Twitter has been invaluable. If you just
Mm,
start kind of digging into like find an e-commerce podcast, find the guy who hosts that, find his Twitter, and then follow all the people he follows. You're going to learn really quickly about a lot of incredible people building, multi-million-dollar businesses just online,
yeah.
and I've found that incredibly valuable. It's how I've connected with a lot of people. I've also gotten the chance to kind of like jump into some exclusive communities for like e-commerce people, which has been really valuable. And those that only happened because I was on Twitter and I was sharing my story.
Mm, yeah.
And that's really what I would recommend is go on Twitter, share your story, find people who are doing similar things, and ask them questions. Or it happened just because I was kind of making it happen. And
Mhm.
there was no magic. I just, I started tweeting about how I raised $2 million, and the right people found it, and I made some
Yeah.
amazing connections. So, and that's how I find all the blog articles and all the Medium articles and everything.
Right. Right.
I'm not ever on one subreddit or
Yeah.
one thing. It's always all
Yeah.
over the place.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, Connor, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know it's got to be busy. You probably got 400 emails while we were on the call, so but I do appreciate it, man. This is an amazing campaign, and man, nothing but I wish tons of luck in the future here, man. And hopefully you keep it
Awesome.
growing over these next 12 days. But this is a great conversation, man. I
Yeah.
truly appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. This has been wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.